match day morning and set it up from about 9 o'clock.
And where is it at? At the ground?
Yeah.
Right, it's called the Redfearn's Bar at the ground at Oakwell.
Yeah. It's behind the Big East stand now in a fan zone, but it was indoors for 5 years.
Was it? Right. Oh, that is.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another week of Live from Redfearn's Bar, brought to you by Barnsley FC Supporters Trust. I can't believe we're already on session 8 of this initiative, aimed at helping break up the lockdown, keeping the fresh football content coming your way, and offering a break from whatever Netflix box set you're currently trying to complete frantically. So in terms of tonight's guest, we really are welcoming a footballing giant of the game to our virtual Redfearn's Bar. His list of honours include 2 European Cups, 3 League Cups, an FA Cup, a European Super Cup, and also a Division 1 title, which for those of you that won't remember, that was before the days of the Premier League and was the top division.
That was in black and white then, in them days, black and white.
He played for England no less than 30 times before hitting, in our very biased opinion, the pinnacle of his career when he joined Barnsley as player manager in 1993, alongside a certain Danny Wilson. Good evening and welcome, Viv Anderson.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all keeping safe.
Huge appreciation from myself for doing this for us and everyone at the Trust, just for giving us an hour of your time. The way we've approached this is quite literally a game of 2 halves. So as you'd expect, a lot of questions came in relating to your playing career and Cloughie and Bobby Robson, etc. So we're going to go back to the start and then finish with your time at Oakwell. Is that all right?
Great. Yeah, fire away.
So a couple of icebreakers first. So what are you involved in these days football-wise, and how are you keeping busy during the lockdown?
Before we start, remember I've got Alzheimer's, so I can't remember half the things that I've done. You'll say you did this or you did that, and I'll go, I don't really remember that. So to your first question, I started a company called Play On Pro, which looks after retired and some current footballers, but it's not just football. We do golf, cricket, we do men and women, we do all different sports. So I've got an app for them called the Play On Pro app. It's an invite only. So we try and get them work. We try and give them any sort of opportunity to speak to one another. It's a bit of a social media thing where they can interact with one another on the app, find out different things. It's a sad statistic that 75% of players, when they retire, get divorced in the first year. So they're looking for something to do and people to speak to, because there's only a certain amount of managers' jobs, a certain amount of coaches' jobs, a certain amount of pundits' jobs. What do the rest of them do? There's a sad statistic that 5% end up in prison. So we're trying to bridge that gap between, as I say, I've got Winks and I've got Grealish, I've got Danny Welbeck's on, I've got people like a current player that's on, but generally it's retired sports people, men and women.
Sounds like a great initiative. And then just coming on to what's going on right now. So we saw the news from Holland last week. France have announced something today in terms of their leagues. How do you think we should resolve the current season in terms of finishing it?
Somebody asked me about 6 weeks ago what I think the outcome would be. And I said, I think it would be null and void because you'll run out of time. And I think everybody's going that way. Obviously, if you're a Liverpool supporter, you want it to finish. I mean, everybody wants the season to finish, but you're running out of time. And I think the inevitability is going to be, it's going to be null and void. So who's ever in the bottom 3 will go down. I think it'd be null and void. I think that's the best way to do it. I don't think it's ideal for everybody, but we just have to take it as it goes.
And what do you think Cloughie would have thought about it all?
Oh, I don't think it'd be repeatable somehow. There'll be a few expletives in there, I think, especially if you're 22 points clear or whatever Liverpool are clear. If you're Forest that far advanced, there'll be some, the air would be blue, shall I say. I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. So going back to the start then, your first team career began at Nottingham Forest after being released as a schoolboy by Manchester United, which we'll come on to later. Yeah. You just started breaking into the first team before the legendary, iconic Brian Clough made you a regular. What were your first impressions of Cloughie when he came to the City ground?
My first impressions of Mr. Clough wasn't the best. We played Tottenham in the Cup. I think we were in the second division, they were in the first division then. We played Tottenham in the Cup. I played most of the game, came off with 10 minutes to go with cramp. And it was an FA Cup tie, and the replay was on the Wednesday. So Mr. Clough came in the dressing room, pinned this team sheet up with about 25 names on it, and I wasn't on it. And I played in the game on the Saturday. So I said to Tony Woodcock, who wasn't even one of the subs that day, I said to him, well, the line's on the wall for me. I'm out the door straight away. I didn't travel. Tony went with the majority of the squad. And I think they got beaten in the replay. But my first impressions, it was answering the question, was not a good one.
And the 77-78 season was your first big success story with Forest. You played over 50 times. It was a team tipped for relegation by some, but you won the league and the League Cup.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how special that was as a season?
I mean, we had a group of players which is fairly unique. And I always remember Cloughie saying to us round about Easter time, he kept on saying, yeah, you're doing all right, you're doing all right. And then come Easter time, when you got a few games in that period, he'd say, I think you lot win this, you know. Because up to then, he'd never talked about winning it. Although we were still challenging, we were thereabouts, he never ever talked about winning it. But come to Easter, he said, I think you lot could win this, you know. So we had a unique set of players, you know, some old ones, you know, like Frank Clark, who came from Newcastle on a free transfer, Colin Barrett, who came in on a very low fee from Manchester City. We had Ian Bowie, who was a journeyman, you know. So we had a lot of players that you would look at them, you look at a list of our squad and our players, you go, how did they win the league? You know, it's one of those sort of Leicester moments, really. But we had some really good players like John Robertson and Tony Woodcock, who were there in the first place. Martin O'Neill was there. I was there. So he had a nucleus of a decent squad, but he picked and chose, you know, bought a really good goalkeeper, obviously Peter Shilton and Trevor Francis. So they knew what they were doing, Pete Taylor and Brian.
And the League Cup win that season came against the European champions Liverpool, who had a plethora of names: Ray Clemens, Kenny Dalglish, Phil Neal, Emlyn Hughes, amongst others. Mm-hmm. That's a massive leap from winning Division 2 the season before. Can you remember that final going up against those kind of players for silverware?
We in there you go. See, the Alzheimer's kicking in again. We won in a replay, didn't we?
Yeah. The first game was 0-0 at Wembley, and then it went to Old Trafford, I think.
Yes, right. Yeah, John Roberts' penalty. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember some things.
I know, I'm testing you.
Thanks, you are. I mean, to play against the great Liverpool team, that was always the bar. If you could get up to Liverpool's level and their players, you've done really well. And this little old team from Nottingham managed to match them and get to a final, and then managed to win in the replay was a phenomenal feat. We got I think John O'Hare got pulled down for the penalty. John O'Hare was a journeyman. It came from Derby with John McGovern, and you know, although he was he's a Scottish international, but you know, he wasn't a regular in the team. So he had a nucleus of players or a spirit in that camp that managed to win things.
And how did Cloughie celebrate that first league title win? Or did he not?
I don't know about that one, but I can tell you one, the Wolves one where we got beat in the World Cup. We go to the Royal Lancaster in London, and we have a big room to ourselves, and everybody has a meal, then everybody goes to the room. You're in your room for 8 o'clock, something like that. We get a call at 9 o'clock. Mr. Clough wants you down in the room. What do you mean? There's a game tomorrow. Everybody's going, you know, Archie Gemmels, these are seasoned pros, you know, Peter Shields, all these players going, oh, we've got to go back down the room. Yeah, so everybody goes back down the room. So we go in the room, we sit down at the table, and the far door opens, and a crate of champagne and a crate of orange juice come in. So we go, what's all this? So he pours everybody a drink. Archie goes, well, I don't drink, boss. He says, you're having a drink tonight. So he says, nobody leaves this room till you can tell me a joke that I like. So we went, what? There's a game tomorrow, big game, cup final. Not bothered, tell a joke. I left that room, gone 12 o'clock. Woke up the next day with headache. But got beat 1-0. That was his way of relaxing people. It works sometimes. European Cup, same thing. But we have managed to win it. But this time it backfired and we got beat 1-0 with a clash with Peter Shilton and I think David Needham clashed together. Bob down and Andy Gray put the ball in the net. So his way of relaxing everybody was having a drink the night before.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Perfect. Yes. And later on, I'll tell you a story that we did with the Barnsley boys when we were going on a bad run.
I'll leave that for the second half.
Right.
And then came back-to-back European Cup wins in 79 and 80. What can you remember about that first win against Malmo? I think it was in Munich in the Olympiastadion.
I remember Peter Shilton pulling off some great saves on the night. I remember that Cloughie changed the system completely, and everybody plays now 1 up front and 5 in midfield. He did it 40 odd years earlier. He played Gary Birtles on his own, and they played five of them. He played a young lad called Gary Mills on the right side and packed the midfield. And we just sat and weathered the storm and hit them on the break. And we managed to score one. I think John Roberts scored one. Trevor scored that one. And it was a really, really good performance. But it wasn't a great game, I must admit, but it's all about the result at the end of the day. And we managed to win. And for Forest, a small little club of average guard of 19,000, it was a fabulous feat. And the celebrations were great going around the town with the open top bus and everything else. And it's still talked about now.
And then the following year in 1980, there was a famous semi-final win against the legendary Ajax, followed by beating Kevin Keegan's Hamburg in the final.
Yeah.
At this point, you're still only 24 and you've won 2 European Cups. Were those games as tough as they looked in the highlights? Can you remember much? Can you remember about them?
It's a really tough competition because it's knockout. So you have a bad night, you're out of the competition. It's the top teams. Not when, like Man United won it, they were fourth and they qualified for the Champions League and managed to win it. It's the champions of each league in the Europe. So it was a really, really intense thing. You've got to perform on the night, else you're out of the competition. So you have to be on form on that night, else it's gone. So you have to be. It's intense, and you have to concentrate really well. We had some really good games. I remember playing against Cologne at home, as you say, Ajax in one of the rounds. These are the two European Cups. But the ones that stick to my mind was the Cologne one, which I was suspended for. And then we went down. And we had to go to Cologne and win. And Ian Bowyer scored with an header, and he brought me back in because I didn't think I would play, but he brought me back in for that game. We managed to win. And obviously the Ajax game was a really good game over 2 legs. Yeah.
And what was it like playing against Keegan, but Kevin Keegan playing for a German side? Because you'd had a couple of years with England at that point, so
that's right.
You must have known him.
Yeah, Kevin was in one of the my teammates in a few of the games. Yeah, it wasn't as much about Kevin. It was about us trying to get the second victory, and we had some really good. Manny Couts was the fullback, and Schultz played brilliantly, and Larry Lloyd and Kenny Burns played really well that night. I mean, defensively we held out and did really well, and which was a stalwart of what we did. We were quite good defenders. You talk about the Invincibles, that great Forest team had the record before them. It was over 42 league games, and it was half of one season and half of another. And when we managed to achieve that, everybody goes, that will never come. And Arsenal come along and do it, and the rest is history. But so we had a good defensive unit that knew what to do. Now, did we work on that? No. Did we do little drills on it? No. He just said, your job, young man, is to keep that ball out of my net. That's it. So it's very simple. Whatever it takes, you keep that ball out of my net. So, and we all took that principle on the pitch with us. And I mean, you look them individually, Lloyd, big lump, Kenny Burns was a big lump, me, young lad, and then you had Frank Clark, who was 97. So you think, how did they go on and keep as many clean sheets as they did? It's just a bit of discipline and players knowing what to do at any given time.
Did Cloughie change over those years from Division 2 winners to conquerors of Europe twice? Or was he always the same? Just his approach to it, or just? No,
it was always the same. Nothing ever changed. He could walk past you in the corridor and blank you. That was the same when he first walked in the door, and when he left, it depends what mood he was in. So he'd never changed, no. But tactically wise, he'd take training. We go, no, boss, not today. No, please, no, because we'd have to do like through the legs and jump over the wall, basic things. So we just hated when he wanted to take training. Wasn't very often, but when he did, we'd go, no, just let the coach do it, sort of thing. But on Saturday afternoons, he knew what to do, who to take off, who to cajole, who to bollock. He was really good at man management, and quite so successful, I think.
You mentioned some of the players earlier just then, but you played with a group of players in that era who became household names in football. Yourself, Trevor Francis, Martin O'Neill, Peter Shilton, Archie Gemmill, a load of others. I know Forest fans voted you at right back.
Nottingham boy.
Yeah. But I know Forest fans voted you at right back in their greatest ever 11.
Yeah.
But other than yourself, who were the top 3 standout players from those seasons in your eyes?
Remember, I paid money to get that from those Forest supporters. It cost me hundreds of pounds for them to vote for me. Who are the standout players? obviously Peter Shilton. I mean, you could say he'd save us 15, 20 goals a season. When they went through on a one-on-one, you go, not going to score. You knew they weren't going to score because the stature of him just put them off, you know. So he was dynamite for us. John Robertson was a genius, really. Little fat lad. He smoked like a trooper. We used to call his car the Ashtray. But what a genius. Both feet, great football brain. He was a central midfield player when Cloughie had come. Turned him into a left winger. He was fantastic. Eddie Burns, he started off as a centre forward at Birmingham, scored 19 goals in the first division. Told him he's going to play centre back. Went, what? He's going to play him at centre back. He just paid, I don't know how much for. Going to play him at centre back. Turned out to be a genius decision. So those sort of players that come straight to mind. Myself and Tony came through the ranks. We were apprentices together. So he scored a lot of goals. He was really good with Withy and people like that. Yeah. So there's some really good standout players at that time. Yeah, we were very fortunate to get them.
And you had an international career that spanned a decade, and during these times, you really got your first England call-up on merit, and it was fully deserved. Can you remember that first international call-up under Ron Greenwood?
I remember Cloughie calls me in the office and says, "I've just got a telegram here." Says, "Yeah." It says, "They've been chosen for the next England squad." That's how I found out. I went, "Oh, great, thank you very much." And I remember going down to London. And we're staying on the outskirts of London, and the boys go, these are my idols: Kevin Keegan, Trevor Brooking, Bob Latchford, all these great players. They go, right, there's a pub in the village called in Cockfosters where we stayed. There's a pub down there. We'll see you there about 9:30. So we get there at 9:30. We just finished the game on the Saturday, so we go down, change, and then I remember about when the last orders were shout. I remember one of the players had 8 pints in front of him. I'm thinking, what am I doing here? He said, "What do you want to drink?" I said, "I'll have half a lager and lime, please." He says, "We don't do half, sir. You don't have half." So it was my initiation into the England squad was big pints of lager, drinking with my idols. So I'm thinking, "Oh, I'll have a bit of this. I like this." But it was a Sunday. We didn't play till the Wednesday, so it's.
And there was a lot of political noise at that time as the first black player to get called up for England. Was that an easy thing to ignore? And did the England players make it easy, or at least make it easier?
It was really dismissed, really, because there was a lot of things, the filming Mum and Dad and me interviews, what it's going to be like if you are the first. Remember, it was between myself and Lottie Cunningham, God rest his soul, and he was always saying, "Is it going to be him? Is it going to be him?" And when it turned out to be me, I was obviously delighted, but it was about trying to be professional and trying to get through the game, not to make a fool of myself. Don't fall over the ball. Don't score an own goal. It was about being professional and trying to get through the game. If you analyse the game, it would never be played now, because one side of the pitch was really hard, the other side of the pitch was really soft. So I wore rubbers first half and studs the second half. You would never play it. It would never be played now. So, and they say if I had an hand in the goal. So if an hand in the goal, me give it to somebody, he runs 70 yards, crosses the ball, somebody puts it in the net, I'm going to take that all day long.
That's an assist.
Oh, right, yeah, some assist. Anyway, but listen, it was a great time, very honoured, even to this day, where people talk to me about it. I'm very honoured and very proud to be the first. To be first at anything, it's always a great privilege.
And your first England goal was against Turkey in an 8-0 win. I've not been able to find the highlights to watch it. So can you talk us through?
Black and white. it's a flick on. I think it might have been Terry Butcher. Flick on from a corner, and I had it in the back post. But my other one, at Wembley, my only 2 goals was at Wembley against the old Yugoslavia. From a corner, gets knocked out. Chrissy Waddle, no, Glenn Hoddle knocks it to Chrissy Waddle. Chrissy Waddle knocks it in, bends it in the near post, and I hit the volley in at the near post. So I remember all my goals. There weren't that many.
Well, we'll get on to the one on your debut later on.
Right.
So you made the England squad.
I won't remember. Honestly, go on.
You made the England squad for the Euros in Italy in 1980, and you started that last game against Spain.
Yeah.
What's it like being part of an England squad going to a major tournament?
You're very cocooned. You get the papers every day, but you're kept away. We were kept in Bilbao, a little boutique hotel in Bilbao. We had, PlayStations, we had all games and games room and this, that, and the other. So you're kept away from the public. So you're very cocooned. You don't know what's going on in the outside world, only the papers. You don't know, there was no televisions. You could watch the television, but there was not what's going off back home and stuff like that. So it's a great experience, I must admit. And as you know, rightly know, that I went to 2 World Cups but never played, but I would never swap the experience. Obviously, I'd like to play, but I'd never swap the experience. They were fantastic experiences.
And who did you room with that summer in 1980?
Oh, God, do me a favour. I know the World Cups, one of them was with Gary Bailey, and the other one was with Terry Butcher, the World Cup ones. It might have been Brian Robson. It was Brian Robson. Brian Robson was my roommate in the Euros, yeah.
And then you're together again at Middlesbrough. 15
Yeah,
years, yeah. Looking back at the time, and obviously I wasn't around, but it seems like England were blessed with right backs at that time. Phil Neal, yourself. I think there was
Mickey
a switch.
Mills.
Yeah, I think there was a switch of a left back who played right back because they just wanted to fit him in the squad. How do you look back on those 30 England caps?
I'm absolutely delighted to get 30. Somebody said to me all those years back, "You're going to get 30 caps, you know." Oh, I'll go, "I'll snap your hands off now." Listen, there's disappointment going to World Cups, didn't play, but to represent your country in any competition or just to walk out at Wembley in front of a full house is a great honour. So I've got 30, delighted to get 30. I'd like 50, but I didn't get 50. But if I'd have got 10, I'd still been delighted. So I'm not one of those bitter and twisted people. So I should have got 80. I've only got 30 now. I was delighted to get 30, and I was pleased to get 30.
Oh, I love it. So back to club football. Your Forest career came to a close when you joined Arsenal for a few seasons.
Yeah.
Won another League
4
Cup
years.
Won another League Cup medal while you were at Highbury. Sir Alex then brought you back to where it all started at Manchester United.
Yeah.
Without having the hindsight of knowing what Alex Ferguson was going to go on to build, how did he sell you the vision back in 1987?
My first meeting, Brian Robson pops up again. My contract's up at Arsenal. I get a phone call from Brian Robson. "Oh, we've got a new manager called Alex Ferguson." I said, "Never heard of him." He said, "He's come down from Scotland. He's interested in buying you." I went, "Where do you want me to meet?" Because I'd always been a Man United fan. I was released there as a young lad, as you know. I was up and down for a year, staying at different houses, training, watching Best Law and Charlton train on the next pitch, things like that. So I said to the wife at the time, "We're going to Manchester." "Well, what?" Says, "We've just got a new house." Says, "I'm not bothered. We're going to Manchester." So I arranged to meet Sir Alex and the chairman in a hotel in the middle of Nottingham. So I get there a little bit early, as you do, because I'm going to see the next Manchester United manager and the chairman. I'm sitting there in this room. They give me a room to go in, sit there. Door opens. Chairman comes in. He said, "Have you seen the manager?" I said, "No, I've been here 10 minutes. I haven't seen him." "Oh, I'll go out and see him." So he goes out. Door opens again. So Alex walks in. Says, "Have you seen the chairman?" I says, "He's just gone out the door to see you." I said, "This happened 3 times. I went, "What am I joining here? What sort of club am I joining here?" They came in the same car. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So we finally got together, and his enthusiasm to make Manchester United good again was absolutely, that sold me. That sold me. And the girl, she still works there now, called Kath at Old Trafford. She was so enthusiastic of me joining, or it was me and Brian McClare at the time. "What can I do for you, love?" And this, that, the other. And where do you? She was so enthusiastic. She was fantastic. But Sir Alex's enthusiasm and how he wanted to make it good. I was always a Man United fan. It didn't take much for me to go, "Listen, I'm going to go to Manchester United." My contract was up, so I'm not breaking a contract. I had the right to do what I wanted to do. And if you're sitting there old and fat like I am now, and you said, "I had a chance to play for Manchester United, never took it," you'd be kicking yourself. So that's what my thought process was at the time, and I took it. It wasn't as successful as I would liked, because I've only missed 3 games in 4 years for Arsenal, and that's one of the reasons he bought me. He looked at my how many times I play each season, and he was obviously impressed with that. And that's why he bought me. Plus, we had a big to-do with Norman Whiteside when Arsenal played Man United when he was the manager. And I stood up to Norman Whiteside, and he remembered that.
He remembered it in a positive way?
Yeah, because I stood up to... it was one of those. I think he kicked David Rocastle, and David Rocastle, God rest his soul. David Rocastle retaliated. He was 17, David. He retaliated and he got sent off. So the ball was down the other end of the pitch, and Norman and me are face to face. Says, "How can you get that young kid sent off? You're a disgrace." Blah blah blah. And Norman was going, "Go on, hit me. I'd love you to go on, hit me." And I'm like, "I can't do it, you know." But I'd get sent off as well, so I didn't. So the big scuffles at the end and all that, because I think we're on a 13-game unbeaten run, Arsenal, going to Old Trafford. We got beat 1-0. Everybody's emotions have flared all over the place, and then bit flaring up, and that's it. And then I'd said to Robbo, next England game, I go, "See that White? He's an absolute wank." he goes, "He's a good lad when you get known to him. I'm telling you." Blah, blah, blah. I said, "I'm not bothered. The things he did to that young lad, it's a disgrace." Blah blah blah. Blah. So when I joined Man United, the first thing he said, he introduced me. Robbo texted me in the dressing room. He goes, "This is such and such," and he goes, "Oh, that's that lad you keep on slagging off when I meet at England." And I've gone, "Oh, pleased to meet you, Norman. I didn't mean it really, you know." So a bit of fun, but he ended up being my best mate, Norman. So things ended well, should I say?
So at this point, you've played for Cloughie, you've played for Bobby Robson, you now played for Sir Alex, three of the most iconic managers in the game.
Terry Venables was my under-21 manager.
Well, another one to add to the list. How did they all differ, and how are they all different?
The Sir Alex and Brian were very, very similar. Very disciplinarians, liked to play the ball on the floor, play and move. And Terry, to a degree, was like that. Bobby, but listen, they're all very similar. Very, very strong football, and very, what's the word? Very, very football orientated. They're very principles on football, how they should be played. It's on the floor. You don't kick it long. You play and move. Get into positions. You defend properly. When you've got an opportunity to go forward, you go forward. You know, don't go silly things. So they're all disciplined in what you do, but you're allowed to do your own stuff in that environment, which are all very, very similar in many respects. And the utmost respect for all of them. That's a thing that comes through when you play for them. You go through a bit war for them, and that's the pinnacle of any manager, I think. When the player said, "I'll go through that," with manager says, "Go through that war," you go through that war. You want to jump? How high do you want me to jump, boss?
And then just one more question on your time at Manchester United. Appearing in a winning FA Cup final side was one of the only achievements you didn't get, because I know a young Paul Ince was picked at right back by Fergie for that final. Is that one game you can be a bit selfish and look back on and think, "God, I wish I'd have played that one. I should have played that one"?
I'm not one of those. Listen, I got injured in the quarterfinals against Sheffield United, and the injury was not quite right, but he took me anyway, and I was fittish, so I wasn't surprised when he took Ince out of midfield and put him at right back. I think it was the right decision. It's like the right decision was to drop Jimmy Leighton for the replay. You know, he makes the right decisions at the right time. Listen, I'd love to have played in the FA Cup final. I mean, years later, I end up playing in the FA Cup now, but we don't talk about that. We got beat. But, you know, at the time, I was part of the squad. I was willing the lads to win it, and but was disappointed that I wasn't involved in the 15 or whatever it was on the day.
And we'll skip the seasons at Sheff Wednesday for obvious reasons, seeing as this is a Barnsley call. But right. Considering you'd missed out with Fergie, how frustrating was it to then miss out on an FA Cup final with Wednesday because of being cup tied? I think you were.
The League Cup final I was cup tied because I played for Man United in the earlier rounds. But the FA Cup final, I was the captain in the FA Cup final.
Oh, right, okay.
Against the Arsenal, I was captain. Ended up coming off in one of them, I think in the first one, with a tackle, and didn't play in the replay. So the FA Cup wasn't, in a 19-year career, it's one of the competitions I didn't do particularly well, or didn't win a medal. Got to a final, but never won a medal. So, I mean, if you analyse it all, I don't think you could argue with that, really, could you?
No, not at all. So we're officially into the second half, which brings us to the summer of 1993 and the move to Oakwell. Yep. That's that summer when you became player manager of Barnsley Football Club. Were we the first team to approach you about starting your managerial career? And was being a manager something that you always wanted to make a move into?
No and no. I had no intentions of being a manager. No intentions whatsoever. I had another year at Sheffield Wednesday, but I got a call from John Dennis. Said, we're interested in you becoming our player manager at Barnsley Football Club. Never entered my brain. So out of courtesy, I met John Dennis somewhere between Manchester and Barnsley, the motorway cafe, and he convinced me at this period of time it was right for me to come on board. So I had to think about it, spoke to Danny Wilson, said, do you fancy it? He goes, yeah, I quite fancy that, yeah. So we're both players, which is going to be difficult. But we made the decision. We're lucky that we had Eric Winstanley there, because come half time, when the manager does his speech, the manager's like trying to get his ear in for the next half. So he did a lot of the talking at half time. And but I enjoyed my time there and thoroughly enjoyed. The people were great, very enthusiastic, and very loyal, I thought.
Was it
We
always
did have the best of times?
No. But was it always the plan for you and Danny to go somewhere as a pair, or was this the first time you talked about it?
No, the decision was when Brian Robson and I. So I got the offer from John Dennis, and I said to Brian, because Brian said, if things being equal, if you're available, we'll do it together. I went, all right, fine. Then I get this offer for the Barnsley job. So I spoke to Rob. Well, Rob said, yeah, take it. You must take it because it's good experience for when we want to do it. Then you make a decision if you want to leave, if you don't want to leave. So fine. So I took it and then got Danny involved, and we went from there, really. The biggest problem was I've played most of my career in a 4-4-2, and Mel Machin before me had played with a sweeper system, and they're quite used to the sweeper system because we had Gary Fleming, I remember, playing at a sweeper position when he played for his country at Whiteback. So I think, well, we got an extra man further forward. Let's play him in his position he plays for his country and play in the back four. And we had disaster after disaster. They couldn't adapt to the way I wanted to be played in a 4-4-2 because they've been used to this system for so long. So the results were up and down, up and down. In the end, and myself and Danny said we decided to go back to what they knew, which was a sweeper system. And the latter part of the season, we did a lot better.
We'll come on to some bits in that, but we made a handful of signings that summer. Obviously, your first summer as a manager, buying players. Yeah. How did you approach recruitment that year? Can you remember whether you thought it was successful or whether you missed out on certain targets?
John Benson was there at the time, and he helped us. He was quite knowledgeable in that league. Myself and Danny weren't as knowledgeable. We knew players. Young Peyton, we bought Peyton, who was a proven goal scorer. So, that's what we thought we needed at the time. I can't remember who else we bought around about that time. Can you remind me?
I think it was the first year I ever watched Barnsley was your season.
Right.
I think there was a striker called, was it Brayson from Sheffield United?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Bryson.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He was a traditional old centre forward, hold it up, lay it on, bring people into play. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't have a lot of money, but what we did, we spent wisely. But Jerry Payton was one because he was a proven goal scorer, and I think that's what he needed to get out of that league, or to do well in that league. You need somebody who's going to get you between 15 and 20 goals regular.
And it was a dream start in many ways in that first game against West Brom, because although we ultimately drew, you scored to put us 1-0 up on a player manager debut at the Ponty end. Can you remember what that was like?
Was it an header?
No, it got. I think it might have been. I think Danny might have chipped it in at the back post, and it came back, and it's taken one bounce, and I think you've put it in the top corner with your left foot.
Did I? Listen, can't remember that. Can you send me a video of that, please?
I'll send you after this because we've posted.
You've actually got it.
Yeah, I've got that one. I just couldn't get your England goal.
Is that right? Oh, listen, I remember scoring against Crystal Palace or somebody like that from an header, from a corner, a night match. I don't remember that one. On my debut as well, eh?
Yeah. 70th minute, I think it was, but then we drew
Was
1-1. Yeah. One
Oh.
of my other questions was going to be, you were our top scorer with 3 goals in the first 6 games, and I'm guessing that wasn't in the script.
I blew up. We blew up as a team, I think. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've got nothing but fond memories of my time. If it wasn't for Brian Robson and Steve Gibson and Middlesbrough, I'd have been, hopefully, I would have been still there now. You know, it was a great time. Well, listen, it was up and down. You're going to talk about the cup match and stuff like that, which it was, you know, the Bromsgrove game. We'll go on to that now. Or do you want me to?
Well, you can go. I mean, the Bromsgrove FA Cup game is often, you know, it's looked back on with a little bit of despair as we struggled to sneak that win. But at the same time, a week or two later, we went on that run of 7 wins in 9 games. Yeah. What's going through your head when it's 1-0 to Bromsgrove Rovers with minutes to play?
I mean, it was somebody. Owen Archdeacon score? Did he score?
I can't remember. The first goal was from a deflection off a corner or something.
Anyway, myself and Danny went to see them the week before, and we couldn't go back and say these are rubbish. So we went back and said, listen, they work hard, they're very disciplined, and blah 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 blah. So and like any other cup tie, once the whistle blows, that's not the team I saw. They're completely different to the team I saw. They were playing out their skins, and deservedly they were up at the time. I think we missed a couple of chances, but you're looking for ways to salvage something when you're 1-0 down, a few minutes to go. And I think Owen Archdeacon scored or something. There's a scramble. I know it's Owen Archdeacon scored, and we managed to draw, did we? Or did we win?
2-1.
We won 2-1 in the end. Archdeacon might have scored the winner then. And to get out of there, you know, you could see the writing in every newspaper in Yorkshire would have been. So we just wanted to get out as quick as we could. And you had a lot of good fighters of them, you know, Bishop and Jerry Taggart and people like that. There's some decent players and Redders, you know, who knew what it's like to go out the FA Cup. So I think they pulled on their experience to get us through.
And was it a case?
I played that day, did I?
No. I don't think you did.
No.
I think you started to take yourself out of the side in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think it got to the point where at half time and at full time you need to hear the manager's voice. So I took myself out of the team. That's why player managers are rare now, because it's so intense. You know, the players want to know what's going off, what you see, other people don't see. And it's very difficult when you're a player manager. So that's why I slowly took myself out of the team. I played Danny sometimes to give a bit more experience, but I'd be out of the team and vice versa.
And after that Bromsgrove game, we had a run of victories, and we actually started looking up towards the playoffs at one point rather than down at the relegation zone.
Right.
Did you start thinking? Was you thinking at the time we've cracked it, or what? No, not all.
No. In management, you cannot think like that, because it could change just like that. So we just think, it's an old saying, take each game as it comes. And we went on this run. I don't know who broke the run. Do you know who broke the run? Who got beat by?
No, I don't. But it kind of went 7 wins in 9, and then it wasn't very many wins out of the next 9. And then I think we got 1 win in the last 3 or 2 in the last 3 to stay up.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah. It wasn't that we stayed up comfortably, but we got the wins we needed to not go to the last day or anything silly like that.
Yeah. I think I'd always thought in my own mind, if we got through that season with the change of the system, buying the new players, the following season would be a lot better, because they know what's expected of them and all the rest of it. And then the Middlesbrough thing came along, and I left it in good hands, I would say.
So how did you feel when you got to the end of that season? How did you digest that first full season in management? Was it a relief to get through it? Did you start planning for the season after? It
was a learning curve, and as I said earlier, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know that management can be ups and downs. You know, you don't sleep at nights because you're thinking, well, I can't play him, or I'll play him, and you're thinking the team selection, so you don't sleep well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we managed to stay up, which is a positive thing. You know, try and retain your league you're in. And then I was looking forward to building it for next year. And then the bombshell came from Bayern and Middlesbrough.
And how soon after the end of the season did the bombshell from Brian Robson come?
Literally straight afterwards. He'd finished. He'd been released by United, and then he'd spoke to a couple of people, and he went to see. I went with him see Middlesbrough, Steve Gibson, and the chairman and the secretary, Keith Lamb, and he had big plans for Middlesbrough. Wanted a new stadium, new training ground, money to buy players. It was a completely different scenario that it was in Barnsley. So it was a hard decision, but I just looked at the potential. Brian was going to play, so I was going to be running the thing anyway. So it was just a different change, but a positive one. I was looking forward to. But I made sure, I told John Dennis, say, give it to Danny Wilson. Don't advertise the fact, give it to Danny Wilson. He'll do an excellent job. And it didn't take a lot of convincing. He just thought keeping the momentum would be good because he'd been there for a year with me. He'd said a lot of things, did a lot of press conferences when I was playing, I was in the bath or whatever it may be. So the voice was good, and the players respected him. And it turned out to be the best decision ever.
And did you and Danny share the same vision on how to play the game?
Very much so, yeah. Yeah. We'd come from the Sheffield Wednesday area. He was at Forest when nobody remembers that. Danny came from Wigan as a young 17-year-old to Forest. He was there for, he'd be 6 months, a bit longer than that. And so I knew Danny from old. And he'd been brought up the right way, the Cloughie way and all the rest of it. So most of the things he thought, I thought. So we had the same philosophy. It wouldn't work otherwise. He's thinking one thing and I'm thinking the other. Now we're thinking very similar, all times.
And was it as it sounds? Was it a really easygoing coaching team relationship between you and Danny, just as you're describing it?
Did we have any fallouts? I can't think of any fallouts we had. Not really, because if things went badly, we'd agree that was rubbish and that was rubbish. We need to replace him. What do you think about him? We'd always have a chat on the way home because Danny went to Sheffield and I went to Manchester. So we had a little pub near the motorway that we stopped at, and we'd always analyse the day, the week. We'll have a pint each just to chew the fat and say, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? So we always had a debrief afterwards, away from everybody else, away from the other coaching staff, and me and him would go through what we thought, and it seemed to work quite well, yeah.
And if you could change one thing about that season at Oakwell as a manager, what would it be?
Finishing higher up in the league. Who knocked us out the FA Cup? Do you remember?
Oh God, no.
See, I'm testing you now.
I know you're beating me as well.
It should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Really.
I know more about your Forest days than I do about the Barnsley days. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, finish higher up in the league, so to give whoever took over from me a better platform. But Danny did a fantastic job. So who was the little right winger we signed from non-league? Who was little quick?
Martin Bullock.
Yes, Martin Bullock. Yes, and he was emerging, and he did really well for you later on, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, he was superb. Yeah, really.
Came from a little. We had little thingy's brother, Sheridan.
Yeah.
So people like
Darren
him.
Sheridan played.
Yeah, we signed a couple people like him, and the other one Bullock came from non-league, who had potential to go, a bit higher. So Danny was left a nucleus of a decent squad. I think he bought a couple himself, but what he achieved over the time when I left was great. Getting him in the Premiership, fantastic.
I know. And that was your only foray into management. So you went and joined Robson. You were at Middlesbrough. Did you ever consider going and joining another club as the manager?
We're there 7 years, and when we both left together, Brian had the offer to go to Bradford. I didn't fancy going to Bradford. Had a couple of bits and bobs, but nothing really concrete that you could say, I'll take that or I won't take that. So no, not really. It's one of those things that the phone never rang for a serious effect.
And just one question on Middlesbrough and the Borough Revolution, because this is the same one that I asked Craig Ignett a couple of weeks ago.
Right. What was his answer?
I'll let you answer it first. It's not a difficult one. It's just how different and challenging was it from a coaching perspective when you're over those seasons at Middlesbrough, overseas stars such as Juninho, Emerson and Ravanelli suddenly start turning up, when before that it's been proper season pros like Neil Cox and Steve Vickers.
Well, it's a learning curve for you, because they do things completely different. They've been brought up completely different to what you think. Little things like, we have a team meeting before the game, and we go, "Where's Emerson?" I go, Emma, where are you? So we go in the toilet, and he's putting his fag out. He's had a fag before the game. So we're going, "Emma, are you sure we're doing a team meeting?" "Oh, I don't understand. I don't speak English," and all the rest of it. So to learn but at the end of the day, they know. You go up to them and go, "You are shit today." They understand that. If you say they don't speak English, they understand. So you need to get your finger out, things like that. So you have to learn their culture and how they do things, and how, people like Fester, we did set pieces before games, and how he marked people from corners was like, grab a hold of them and stuff like that. And we're going, whoa, what are you doing? He said, "Oh, this is how we do it in Italy." So we don't do that here. With penalties all over the place. So you've got to learn our way of doing things. So it's quite challenging in that respect. But listen, they were good pros, and they came from good backgrounds, so they were good as gold. Juninho was class. Anything you say to him, you put on as a training session, he'd lap up. He'd want to train 3 times a week, 3 times a day if you'd let him. He played twice a week, twice in a day if you let him as well. He's one of those lads who just loved playing football. Rav was a fantastic professional, great goal scorer. Emma was absolutely sensational for us for the 6 months until Bobby Robson wanted him at Barcelona. Then we had all sorts of problems with him, but he was a great lad. And so we were lucky. We signed a lot of good lads that enhanced the club and enhanced the football as well.
Well, look, we're into the last 3 questions now. So these are not linked to your career in any order, just 3 random ones. You put yourself at right back. Who's the best back 4 you've ever played with or coached? And you can including a goalkeeper.
I played with Schultz, and I played with Ray Clements, fantastic goalkeepers. But I played with Pat Jennings only for a short while at Arsenal, and you just go, my God, he must have been great. He must have been 42 when I was there, and he was still pulling out saves you don't believe. And he was not always pointing and shouting at back fours. He was a very laid back Irishman, biggest hands in the world. But he was a fabulous goalkeeper. Back 4. I played with a lad called, and Todd and McFarland were great. Colin Todd came to Nottingham Forest, and he was just sensational. If you speak to Des Walker, he learned more from Colin Todd than he learned from any of the coaches, anybody he ever worked with. He played with him in the reserves for a little while, and played with him in the first team. And he watched how good he was at nicking in front of people, reading people, making people don't beat you. He learned a hell of a lot from him. I would say Toddy, one of the centre backs. I'm trying to think. Big Butch was great for England at centre back, and never say die. And left back would be Kenny Sanson. 80 odd caps, never got beat. Great getting forward. A lot of pluses. Yeah. I'll probably switch off here and think of a completely different back 4. Des Walker, played with Des for a little while. He'd come into the frame. Sheffield Wednesday, I played with Sheffield Wednesday back 4. Roland Nielsen, very good player. I went to Sheffield Wednesday to replace him because he got a knee ligament trouble. But yeah, there's some good players, I must admit.
And out of all those good players throughout your career, who was the most influential in the dressing room?
We go back to him again, Brian Robson, by far. If you had Brian, he's the one you'd have next to you in the trenches. You go into war. He's in a football field. He tackles, he heads, he kicks, he scores goals. He does everything a midfield player does that you want him to do, and influences the game. And he's a good talker as well. He was the all-round proper player. I mean, 90 odd caps. You don't get 90 odd caps unless you're a top player. And it's influential all over the place. Influential at Manchester United, with the players on the pitch, insisting and giving them the ball in tight areas, not hiding, and influencing other people around him. He was excellent. People try and compare him with Roy Keane. Roy Keane was a fabulous player. Don't get me wrong, but if I had a choice between the two, I would definitely take Bones.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So I guess most people would assume that the answer to this one is Cloughie, but who left the biggest impression on your career? And is it Cloughie or is it someone else?
I think it would be Cloughie because of all the things we achieved. We a little club, the average crowd of 19,000. You know, we had to we had to go down the training ground and get the cars off the training ground before we trained. So there's nothing pretentious about it at all. It's just a mid-table club, and he tucked it into this massive thing that we're still living on the back of 40 odd years later. They keep on wheeling us out and to do different events, and they keep on saying, "Oh, this is the European Cup winning team," sort of thing. So, I mean, it shouldn't be denied. I know Leicester did it a couple of years ago, and it's a fantastic achievement. But I said at the time, if they can do that, great. But the next season, they've got to retain it again. They've got to get in that, and they've got to win it again. And that's what the Forest did back to back. There's not many clubs done it. I think Inter Milan's done it. We're up there with also people.
Look, and on that note, we'll bring it to a close and just say a massive thank you to you, Viv, for taking us through some phenomenal career highlights and legendary achievements. But also,
I
really
more than I thought, didn't I? Really,
you did a great job. I mean, you stumped me 3 or 4 times. So, look, and also thanks for giving us some amazing insight into your time at Oakwell. And it might not have been the most successful season on paper, but it did contribute to the journey that Danny Wilson took us on so famously. So, cheers, Viv, and thanks for that.
Yeah, enjoyed it, and I enjoyed my time at Oakwell as well, and I've got some nice friends. I'm sad that I was trying to get to. I didn't know Rimo's funeral was when it was, and that I would definitely have gone to that if I'd known, because he was a lovely, lovely man. When I first walked in the door, he was great.
Oh yeah, real club legend. Actually, just one more question. You did say you were going to tell us a story about drinking pints with the Barnsley players.
I think we got down to, I don't know, it might have been the bronze game. Because we'd watched them the week before. Don't hold me on that. It might not have been. Danny will be able to tell you about. So we get down there early. So we find out there's a little bar down the corner. So we say, get your bags. We're going for a walk. We go, walk to the pub, and we they have 3 or 4 pints each, and then they go back to the hotel for the evening dinner. So it's a way of relaxing them. It's a cup tie. We're playing against Bronze Globe. They are good. They're half decent. You got to take them with respect. The professional, be professional, but have a few drinks the night before. So I was just trying to do what Cloughie did with us all that time, just to relax them a little bit. But it worked up to 89 minutes or something.
Well, I was going to say, at least you won. Cloughie lost.
That's true. Yeah. The other times we won, both European Cups we drank. I'll tell you another story before I go. We played Celtic in the UEFA Cup, the City Ground. Celtic had never been beaten in a European tie. We drew 1-1 on night. So we go up to Glasgow on the Wednesday. This is a replay on the Wednesday, second leg on the Wednesday. Arrive at Glasgow Airport and get the bus to go to Troon on the coast. And Cloughie stops the bus in the middle of Glasgow. And we go, what's he doing? We get off this bus and go in this pub. We have 2 pints each. This is on the Monday. 2 pints each, and I am to be behind Cloughie on the way out. He says to the barman, give that bill your boss. Strange. Get on the bus, thinking nothing of it. Ends up, it's David A's pub. So he's done his research to find out the Celtic manager has got a pub in the middle of Glasgow. Right? So he goes in, there's 28 of us, we all have 2 pints each, and he goes, give that bill your boss, right? So, so we go to Troon, have an evening dinner. On the next day, which is the Tuesday, he said, everybody down, kit. Get in the kit, go on the bus. We get to a marina. Marina? What's this? So we get off this marina, get off the bus, go in this hall, this here. He said, dartboard, pool, snooker, we'll pick you up at 6 o'clock. Bar. So he picks us up. This is on the Tuesday. Celtic have never been beaten in a cup tie ever at home. We're all out. Go to bed, right? Go to bed. The day of the game, everybody down the kit. He said, right, run to that bunker. It's on a golf course. The bunker's about 50 yards away. Run to the bunker and back. So we run to the bunker because we've done nothing since the Saturday, just drank. thinking, oh, we'll get some here and out. And he goes, get to bed. I said, boss, we've not done any training since last Saturday. He says, you're right, young man. He said, get to bed. We go to bed and we beat them 2-1 at Celtic Park.
Fantastic.
It worked on that occasion.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. I don't think that the current managers would do all these sort of things somehow. Do you?
No, I don't think it's happening today.
I don't think so somehow. That's probably why he's so unique and so looked upon as so good.
Well, look, thanks again. It's just mesmerising listening to you tell these Cliffy stories and everything else.
Yeah.
So
listen, it's the tip of the iceberg as well. I should write a book, but no, I don't think I will. I'll keep them in there. That's the best way.
Well, look, thanks everyone for listening. We're back on Thursday at 7 o'clock with not one guest, but 2 live guests. So talk about running before you can fully walk. It could end in disaster, or it could be one of our best sessions yet. So as Andy Ritchie and Rick Alden join us for an hour to talk through their memorable time at Oakwell, the penalty shootouts, the promotion, transfer windows. I'm sure we'll mention Gordon Shepherd and much, much more. Viv, thanks again and all the best.
You're welcome.
Look, stay safe, everyone. Stay indoors, and we'll see you again in a couple of days.